Well, hello. This is a review of this cornet, which is an Antoine Courtois cornet made in 1920. This instrument came from France. It wasn't. It was sold in France originally, and I bought it from a dealer there, very inexpensively, for about the same £200, the same money that we would pay here for a 1940s high pitch cornet. But this one is actually in low pitch because in France they didn't use high pitch instruments. I'll explain that. In Britain, brass bands played in a higher pitch, so I think it was A458 until 1965. There was a transitional period before that when bands were able to convert instruments, so they put spacers into the tuning slides to move them from high to low pitch. So if we're buying an old cornet here, it's nearly always a high pitch one, and sometimes they've been converted. But I bought this from a dealer in France. So I will tell you a little bit about the instrument, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and then I'll do some playing on it, and you can decide what you think about it. Maybe leave some comments if you like. First thing is that this instrument is in B flat, but it's also in A. You can see the main tuning slide here has got a rotary valve, which puts an extra length of tubing in, which puts it into the key of A, which was quite common in this period. It doesn't have any triggers on it, obviously, because of the period, so the third valve tuning slide is probably a little bit longer than we would have now. And if you were playing something that was in a lot of sharps, you would actually play it on the A side, so you wouldn't encounter the bottom C sharps that you might need a trigger for these days. So it has two main tuning slides. I'll show you on here. That's the other one, and this is actually the one that you would pull out to tune the instrument. A lot of cornets had two tuning slides on the main side. Even the original Sovereign medium bore from 1974 had that arrangement. The idea was that you tuned there, and you would pull here for the key of A, pull a slide out possibly to get to the key of A, or you might have a longer tuning shank. This is a removable tuning shank that would give you the key of A, and then the mouthpiece would be out here somewhere. So that was different ways that they did that. I find that if I tune the instrument on the main tuning slide, on what would be the main tuning slide, it doesn't respond very well at all. The intonation is not quite right, so I'm tuning it on the real tuning slide here. On very early cornets and cornopeans, which is the predecessor of the cornet, on early cornets, they would have had a hook here, and you would have been able to pull this with your thumb like a trigger on some of them, especially the French ones. The other thing is that if I was to put an A tuning slide in here, the instrument would play in the key of G with that valve turned. That was quite common in the early days of cornets because the key of G is easier to transpose C parts onto, so there was a bit of a history of that. So the valves are top sprung, but I don't know if you can see that. I'll try and get this rotated around. The valve guide, this is just a washer here. The valve guide itself is in the body of the valve like a euphonium or a tuba. Okay, I'm just coming back in here. I have recorded this video and then realised that I haven't told you the bore size. This instrument is 0.450 inches. So to compare that to Bach medium large is 0.459, so it's quite a small bore. Sovereign large bore would be 0.466. So it's relatively tight, but I actually have tighter cornets. The 28A con is I think 437 or something. So it's a small bore cornet, but there you go. And the other thing I should have said was that the B-flat shank I'm using in it isn't the one that came with it. It was a bit leaky. And I have one that has been converted to modern mouthpiece taper, so I was using that. Back to me from earlier on. So, overall condition, it's got a few dents in it. Nothing traumatic, nothing major. The valve compression is atrocious. The second valve's actually fine, the third valve's a little bit iffy. First valve, you could drive a bus down the side of it. But I'm using a Bert 3 oil in it, and it's actually working quite surprisingly. I'll tell you what I like about it. I think it's a very nice sound. I think it's an interesting layout of instrument. It's an interesting survivor of its period. And it's very interesting to play on. I think this arrangement here always produces an interesting sound because there's no mouthpiece gap here, and this is a cylinder right down to here, and then suddenly it bursts out into effectively a chamber before going back into a lead pipe. And I think that's why you get that sort of compressed sound on older cornets like this, and that when you push it harder it gets brighter, because there is this kind of reservoir of air in here, or vibration, and I think that is a significant factor in the sound of these instruments. So, things I like about it: the sound. The valve casings are very tall, which means it's actually very easy to hold compared to a modern cornet. And my Geneva cornet that I normally play on has got quite a high valve casing anyway. The bell throat is quite tight though. Have a look at this. I can't fit a trumpet stand in here because it's too tight across here. So that's an interesting thing. So those are the things I like about it. Things I don't like about it is the fact it won't fit on a stand very easily, which is a bit of a bummer. It would work. It would actually fit on my Hercules stand, I think, if I modified it slightly. Obviously the valves leaking is a bit of a problem. You also have these corks here. One of them is broken slightly. This is how the valve alignment works. There's no felt under the top, but it does allow the valve alignment to be more precise. It plays a little bit sharp up the top, which is probably due to me not having the main tuning slide out far enough. I think probably I have to get the top range more in tune and then adjust the bottom with my lip a little bit more. And partly that's to do with the leaky valves. But I'm using Bert 3 in it, and it actually does work quite satisfactorily. So I will put some clips here of me playing, and I hope you found that interesting. It's a nice instrument, and it's unusual. You're not going to find too many of these in the UK, especially a low pitch instrument of this period. So thank you for that.